The most talked about medicines on the planet trace back to a gene hiding inside a fish, a hormone your body destroys within minutes, and the venom of a lizard whose bite is notoriously painful. To see how they connect, we have to rewind. How did a puzzle about digestion, first spotted in 1964, turn into a multi-billion-dollar question about the future of human weight? And why did one of the scientists who cracked it spend decades erased from the story? This is what led here. It begins with a puzzle. In 1964, scientists noticed something strange about sugar. When you swallow glucose, your body releases far more insulin than when the exact same glucose is dripped into a vein. The blood levels matched. The insulin response did not. The only explanation was a hidden hormone released by the gut itself, telling the pancreas that food had arrived. They called it the incretin effect. They just could not find the messenger. The first thread appeared in 1982 at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. Endocrinologist Joel Habener was studying an unlikely animal, the anglerfish. When he cloned its pre-proglucagon gene, the gene behind the blood sugar hormone glucagon, he found something extra tucked inside, a second glucagon-like sequence nobody could explain. A year later, Graham Bell found the same hidden sequence in mammals and gave it a name. Glucagon-like peptide 1, GLP-1. Nobody yet knew what it did. Here is where the real detective work happened and where the history is usually told wrong. GLP-1 was not cracked by one team. It was cracked by two, working separately at the same time. In Copenhagen, Jens Juul Holst led one group. In Boston, a second formed around Habener, a young fellow named Daniel Drucker, and a chemist named Svetlana Moisov. By 1986, both teams had the same suspicion. The full-length GLP-1 the gene predicted barely worked. The real hormone had to be a shorter, hidden fragment. Finding that fragment was chemistry, and the chemistry was Svetlana Moisov's. She refined the methods to synthesize pure GLP-1, and she proved the body's active form was a trimmed 31 amino acid piece called GLP-1 7 to 37. In 1987, Moisov, Habener, and Weir showed that this exact fragment made the pancreas pour out insulin. It is the discovery the entire industry now rests on. And yet the first patents for using GLP-1 to release insulin listed only Habener. Moisov's name was left off. She would spend the better part of 4 decades fighting to get it back. The next breakthrough came from the venom of a lizard. Native GLP-1 had a fatal flaw. An enzyme called DPP4 destroyed it within minutes, a mechanism Holst's Copenhagen group helped uncover. A hormone that vanishes that fast cannot be a drug. But at the Bronx VA Medical Center, endocrinologist John Eng was chasing a strange clue. Certain venoms made the pancreas swell. In 1990, from the venom of the Gila monster, Eng isolated a hormone he named Exendin-4. It did everything GLP-1 did, but the lizard's version stayed active for hours, not minutes. It had solved the problem the human hormone could not. The same year Eng published his lizard hormone, the Boston group crossed a different line. In 1992, Habener, Moisov, and David Nathan tested GLP-1 in actual people. It worked. The hormone triggered insulin and lowered blood sugar, including in patients with type 2 diabetes. The mystery messenger from 1964 was now proven medicine in humans. 2 roads lay open. Build a drug from the lizard, or build one from the human hormone. Both would be walked. The lizard road moved first. In 1996, a company called Amylin Pharmaceuticals licensed Eng's Exendin 4 and began turning it into a drug. By 1999, researchers led by Josephine Egan had shown that a single daily injection could normalize blood sugar in diabetic mice within a week. The Venom was becoming a medicine. The human hormone road took a different fix. At Novo Nordisk in Denmark, chemist Lotte Bjerre Knudsen attacked GLP-1's survival problem her own way. She attached a fatty acid chain to the peptide so it would cling to proteins in the blood and resist destruction. To be clear, Knudsen did not discover GLP-1. She engineered it to last. In 2000, her molecule, liraglutide, entered clinical testing. In April 2005, the lizard reached the pharmacy. The FDA approved exenatide, sold as Byetta, the synthetic twin of the Gila monster's Exendin 4. It was the first drug of its kind ever approved, an incretin mimic, a medicine that copied the gut hormone science had chased since 1964. Patients injected it before meals, and as of 2019, more than 2 million people had used it to manage type 2 diabetes. Then the human hormone side caught up. In January 2010, the FDA approved Victoza, Knudsen's liraglutide, for type 2 diabetes. Her fatty acid trick had stretched liraglutide's half-life from barely over an hour to about 13, enough for one injection a day. Novo Nordisk was now in the race, betting on the human molecule. By now, the science was being honored. In 2013, John Eng received the Golden Goose Award, a prize for federally funded research that sounds absurd on paper, lizard venom and diabetes, yet changes the world. Then, in December 2014, came a quiet turning point. The FDA approved Saxenda, the same liraglutide molecule at a higher dose, but not for diabetes, for obesity. It was the first GLP-1 drug approved specifically to help people lose weight. The weight loss era had a door, and it was open. The molecule kept improving. In December 2017, the FDA approved Ozempic, Novo Nordisk's semaglutide. Knudsen's team had screened roughly 4,000 candidate compounds to build it, extending the hormone's half-life to about 165 hours. A single injection now lasted a week. Ozempic was approved for type 2 diabetes, but in the trials, patients kept losing serious weight, and everyone noticed. In June 2021, Novo Nordisk got the approval that changed everything. The FDA cleared Wegovy, the same semaglutide at a higher dose for weight management. In its trials, patients lost an average of around 17% of their body weight over 68 weeks. Nothing like it had existed. And that same year, as the prizes for GLP-1 started arriving, Jens Juul Holst received the prestigious Canada Gardner Award. It credited Habener, Drucker, and Holst. Once again, Svetlana Moisov was left off. The boom did not start with a science headline. It started with the internet. In May 2022, Eli Lilly's Mounjaro, tirzepatide, arrived as a rival, hitting 2 gut hormone targets at once. But what truly lit the fuse was culture. In October, Elon Musk credited his weight loss partly to Wegovy. TikTok filled with before and afters. Ozempic face became everyday slang. Semaglutide prescriptions jumped 442% between 2021 and 2023. And demand so outran supply that a nationwide shortage began. Remember the date. The frenzy was already here in 2022. A full year before the trial, most people credit for it. 2023 brought a cascade. The Wolf Prize in Medicine credited Daniel Drucker alone. Then, on August 8th, Novo Nordisk announced its SELECT trial. In more than 17,000 people with overweight or obesity and heart disease but no diabetes, Semaglutide cut major cardiac events by 20%. Many people credit this trial for starting the frenzy. It did not. The frenzy was already a year old. Select reinforced the boom. It did not trigger it. Weeks later, on September 1st, Novo Nordisk briefly became Europe's most valuable company, passing the owner of Louis Vuitton. That same month, a Science magazine profile finally told the world what Svetlana Moisov had done. And in November, Eli Lilly's Zepbound, tirzepatide for weight loss, was approved. The evidence and the recognition kept building. In March 2024, the FDA expanded Wegovy's label to include cutting the risk of heart attack and stroke, the first weight loss drug also approved to protect the heart. Again, it reinforced demand that was already everywhere. By May, a KFF poll found that 1 in 8 American adults had taken a GLP-1 drug. And on September 19th, the Lasker Award, often called America's Nobel, finally named Svetlana Moisov alongside Joel Habner and Lotte Knudsen. After decades, her name was on the prize. By 2025, the shortages that had defined the boom were declared over. Tirzepatide in December 2024, semaglutide in February 2025. That May, compounded copies became illegal to sell in the United States. And the money got a reality check. Goldman Sachs, cutting its own earlier forecast, estimated the global obesity drug market would reach about $95 billion by 2030. The story that began with an erased name finally closed the loop. For decades, Svetlana Moisov had been left off the patents and passed over by prize after prize. In 2025, the Breakthrough Prize in Life Sciences did what no award had done before. It honored all 5 of them together: Joel Habner, Svetlana Moisov, Daniel Drucker, Jens Juul Holst, and Lotte Knudsen. Both discovery teams and the engineer who made the hormone last, finally on one stage. How big does this get? Beyond Goldman's forecast, Morgan Stanley is more bullish still, projecting the market could more than double, to roughly $190 billion by 2035. Trace the whole chain forward one last time. 1964, a puzzle about sugar no one could solve. 1982, a gene hiding in a fish. 1986, 2 labs an ocean apart, chasing the same fragment. 1987, Svetlana Moisov proves which piece works and is erased from the credit. 1990, the venom of a Gila monster does what the human hormone could not. 2005, the first drug reaches the pharmacy. 2021, Wegovy opens the weight loss era. 2022, the culture catches fire. 2025, all 5 honorees finally on one stage. From a single mystery about sugar to the best-selling medicines on Earth. Subscribe, and we'll trace what led here next.